You need to hear the incredible story of a man named Elijah. This isn't just some old tale. It's a story about courage, faith, and a showdown so epic it's still talked about thousands of years later. Picture this: the ancient kingdom of Israel, a place that's supposed to be devoted to one God. But things have gone sideways. The king, Ahab, and his notorious wife, Jezebel, have led the people astray. They've started worshiping a false god named Baal, a god of rain and fertility. They've built altars to him, and the worship of the true God has been all but stamped out. It's a dark time for Israel. The nation is spiritually lost, and to make matters worse, there's a severe drought. For 3 long years, not a single drop of rain has fallen. The land is cracked and barren, the crops have failed, and the people are desperate. And in the middle of all this chaos and despair stands one man, Elijah. He's a prophet, a messenger of God, and he's pretty much the last one of his kind left standing. Queen Jezebel has been on a rampage, hunting down and executing God's prophets. Elijah is public enemy number 1, living as a fugitive. But he hasn't lost his faith. He knows the drought is a direct consequence of the people's actions, a sign of God's displeasure. After 3 years in hiding, God speaks to Elijah. He tells him it's time. Time to go back. Time to confront King Ahab. Time to show the people who the real God is. Can you imagine the courage that took? Walking right back into the lion's den to face the very king who wants you dead. But Elijah doesn't hesitate. He finds Ahab, and the tension is thick. Ahab immediately blames him, saying, "Is that you, you troubler of Israel?" But Elijah, bold as ever, flips it right back on him. He says, "I have not troubled Israel, but you and your father's house have, in that you have forsaken the commandments of the Lord and have followed the Baals." He doesn't just defend himself, he goes on the offensive. He lays down a challenge, a public contest to settle the debate once and for all. Elijah proposes a massive gathering on top of Mount Carmel. He tells Ahab to bring everyone, all the people of Israel, and specifically the 450 prophets of Baal and the 400 prophets of the goddess Asherah, who were all supported by Queen Jezebel. This wasn't going to be a quiet debate. This was going to be a public spectacle, a definitive showdown in front of the entire nation. So the stage is set on Mount Carmel. Picture a huge crowd of anxious people, the dry, dusty landscape stretching out below them. On one side, you have 850 prophets of the state-sponsored religion, looking confident and powerful. On the other side stands Elijah. Alone, Elijah steps forward and addresses the crowd. He shouts, "How long will you waver between 2 opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal is God, follow him." The people are silent. They're caught in the middle, unsure, afraid. They don't have an answer. So Elijah lays out the rules of the contest. It's simple. "Let's get 2 bulls," he says. "The prophets of Baal can choose one for themselves. They'll cut it into pieces, put it on the wood, but they won't light the fire. I'll do the same with the other bull. Then they will call on the name of their God, and I will call on the name of the Lord. The God who answers by fire, he is God." The people agree. This sounds fair. It's a clear, undeniable test. So the prophets of Baal go first. They prepare their bull, place it on the altar, and they begin to pray. They call out, "O Baal, answer us." They pray from morning until noon. Nothing happens. The wood is cold. Elijah, seeing their failure, starts to have a little fun with them. He's not just a serious prophet. He's got a sharp wit. He starts mocking them. "Shout louder. Surely he is a god. Perhaps he is deep in thought, or busy, or traveling. Maybe he is sleeping and must be awakened." Goaded by his taunts, the prophets of Baal become frantic. They shout louder. They dance and leap around their altar. They even start cutting themselves with swords and spears, a desperate, bloody ritual to get their god's attention. This goes on for hours, a chaotic and grisly scene. But there is no response, no voice, no fire, nothing. Just the sounds of their own desperate cries echoing on the mountain. By late afternoon, it's clear. Baal has failed the test. It's Elijah's turn. He calmly calls the people to come closer. He wants them to see everything. No tricks, no illusions. He finds an old, broken down altar of the Lord and rebuilds it with 12 stones, one for each of the tribes of Israel, a symbolic act of reuniting the nation. He digs a trench around the altar, a pretty big one. He arranges the wood and places the bull on top. And then, he does something that seems completely insane, especially during a drought. He tells the people, "Fill 4 large jars with water and pour it on the offering and on the wood." They do it. He says, "Do it again." They do. He says, "Do it a 3rd time." Everything is completely soaked. Water drenches the sacrifice, fills the wood, and overflows into the trench around the altar. Elijah is making a point. If this thing catches fire, it won't be by human hands. It will be a miracle. With everyone watching, a soaking wet altar before him, Elijah steps forward. He doesn't shout. He doesn't dance. He doesn't work himself into a frenzy. He simply prays a calm, clear, powerful prayer. He says, "Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known today that you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant, and have done all these things at your command. Answer me, Lord, answer me, so these people will know that you, Lord, are God, and that you are turning their hearts back again." It's a prayer of faith, not desperation. He's not asking for his own glory, but for God's, so that the people might return. And what happens next is instantaneous and spectacular. Suddenly, fire from the Lord falls from the sky. Not just a little flame, but a torrent of divine fire. It consumes everything. It burns up the sacrifice, the wood, the stones of the altar, and the soil itself. It even licks up all the water that was in the trench. Everything is gone in a flash of brilliant, heavenly flame. The crowd, which had been silent and uncertain, sees this undeniable display of power, and they fall on their faces. A ripple of realization and awe spreads through the people, and together they cry out, "The Lord, He is God. The Lord, He is God." In that one moment, the debate is over. The truth has been revealed in the most dramatic way possible. After this incredible victory, Elijah tells King Ahab to go eat and drink, because he hears the sound of a heavy rain. Remember, it hasn't rained in 3.5 years. Elijah climbs to the top of Mount Carmel, bows to the ground, and prays. He sends his servant to look toward the sea. The servant goes and comes back. There is nothing. Elijah sends him again. 7 times he sends his servant. On the 7th time, the servant returns and says, "A cloud as small as a man's hand is rising from the sea." That's all it took. That tiny cloud. Soon, the sky grew black with clouds. The wind picked up, and a heavy rain began to fall, ending the long, punishing drought. The God who answered with fire now answered with water, proving his power over all of creation. The story of Elijah on Mount Carmel is more than just an ancient miracle. It's a powerful reminder for us today. It teaches us about the courage it takes to stand for our beliefs, even when we feel outnumbered. It shows that true faith isn't about how loud you can shout, but about a deep, unwavering trust. And it demonstrates that even in our driest, most desperate seasons, when things seem hopeless, a breakthrough can come. Sometimes it's a dramatic fire from heaven, and sometimes it's a cloud as small as a man's hand, a tiny sign of the great things to come. So next time you feel like you're the one against the many, remember Elijah. Remember his boldness, his faith, and the God who showed up in such a powerful way. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.